Low, who is the communications advisor of the Norwegian Refugee Council. Good to see you, Shaina. What can you tell us about what the NRC knows about the GHF's work?
What we know is that each day people are losing their lives as they approach these distribution sites. People are being forced to make an impossible decision between dying by starvation or dying trying to get food to feed their families. We've seen now whistleblower reports. We've seen documentation of Israeli forces firing upon those seeking to collect food. Each day we're getting news of more people being injured, more people being killed. And the reality is that it doesn't need to be this way. There is a way to safely deliver aid and food and other aid to people in Gaza. We saw that we had the ability to do that during the ceasefire in January and February, when we had a surge of aid coming in, hundreds of trucks per day, hundreds of distribution sites throughout Gaza where we could call people and tell them when distributions were happening, ensure that distributions happened in an orderly fashion, made sure that the most vulnerable, women, children, the elderly, people with disabilities, had the opportunity to receive aid. What we've seen in these death camps operated by the GHF is that people are being forced to risk their lives day in and day out to try and find some packages of lentils or pasta to feed their families.
More people in Gaza have died of starvation in just over 11 days than in the previous 21 months of the entire conflict. Has that led to any reopening of any passages, borders, or permission being granted by Israel to organizations, for example, like yours? Because these numbers, the whole world is seeing, Shaina, and the whole world is seeing the pictures.
Well, the reality is that only a handful of agencies have been authorized to bring in aid. I believe it's about 7 agencies, a few from the UN and a few medical organizations. And all that they're permitted to bring in is food, nutritional supplies, medicines, and hygiene kits. Now, we ourselves at the Norwegian Refugee Council have 120 truckloads of hygiene kits that could serve the people in Gaza, where the cost of a bar of soap is as much as $10. When it used to be about 50 cents. People are living under incredibly difficult, unhygienic conditions, and yet we have not gotten approval, along with dozens of other NGOs, to bring in our supplies that are pre-positioned, ready to be dispatched, and could provide immediate relief to people in need. The limited access that we've seen, the increases over the last several weeks, as we saw the EU negotiate with come to some type of agreement with Israel. We saw the start of the airdrops. That we saw the increase from the handful of organizations that have been approved to deliver aid, but it is nowhere near enough. We need all humanitarian agencies on deck. We need unrestricted access to our supplies. We need unrestricted access to the communities that are in desperate need, that have been deprived of meaningful aid for 22 months. And really since, specifically since March 2nd, now about 5 months ago, when Israel imposed a near total siege on the Gaza Strip, and very little aid has gotten in.
The French government says that 10 tons of humanitarian aid is arriving for Gaza. It will be sent to Jordan on 4 different planes. Is there a difference in terms of aid being distributed by an NGO like yours and aid being sent by a government? Or is the logistical challenge and the impositions imposed by the Israelis the same for everybody? Because I just figured that you, as an NGO, may not have the leverage that a government has.
Well, we've seen that some countries have been able, like we've seen these handful of countries be able to participate in airdrops. That's nowhere near enough. I can't speak to the operations that are happening on the ground by state-funded, that are state-sponsored. But the work that we're doing is when we do it, we make sure that we're reaching people who are in need. We're making sure that our aid is fit for purpose. We're making sure that it gets to the people who need it most. And of course, when we're seeing airdrops, There's no way to determine who that aid is going to. There's no way to even precisely drop the aid where it's intended because of wind and other factors. And so the only way to ensure that aid is getting into the hands of the people who need it most is to give access to humanitarian agencies that have proven track records, that have years of experience working on the ground in Gaza, and who can ensure that we can deliver safely and deliver at scale what Palestinians in Gaza desperately need.
Shaina, thank you so much indeed. Really always appreciate your expertise in this matter. Shaina Low.
Thank you.